ECOWAS ends emergency summit in Abuja with renewed vigor to dialogue Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger about quitting the bloc.
ECOWAS has no choice but to compromise with these three countries. ECOWAS is not in a better position to impose any solution. The first thing that they are asking openly is to end of the sanctions, particularly Mali and Niger.
The Council of Senegalese Catholics urges calm and respect for the electoral calendar as 37 opposition MPs petition the Constitutional Council.
For the questions of political contestation, we are putting a process in motion which, despite all its flaws and difficulties, was a way to be engaged in the consultation of the common good.
Organized labor in Ghana remains firm in protesting against the controversial electricity tax on February 13, 2024, and Liberia's President Joseph Boakai orders an immediate forensic audit of Central Bank and two other state institutions. Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana and Liberia. Let's begin with the outcome of the Emergency Mediation and Security Council meeting of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, held in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, on Thursday. At the end of the conference to discuss the fast deteriorating political crisis in the sub-region, the bloc again cautioned Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger from exiting the organization. This time, however, it was less of a threat and more of an advice. Yusuf Tuga, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs and chair of the meeting, said ECOWAS will redouble its efforts towards diplomacy, dialogue and reconciliation. As Oge Birika reports, Senegal's political crisis did not make it to the negotiating table.
The Mediation and Security Emergency Conference by the regional bloc ended Thursday after hours of deliberations chaired by Nigeria's head of foreign diplomacy, Yusuf Tuga. Vulnerable to several shocks, but particularly insecurity, ECOWAS announced plans including the dispatch of envoys to engage Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger on their planned exit. Asked about the bloc's chances of success, Ibrahim Khan, a governance expert, sees compromise on the part of ECOWAS as a last resort.
ECOWAS has no choice but to compromise with these three countries. I think ECOWAS is not in a better position to impose any solution. The first thing that they are asking openly is to end of the sanctions, immediate end of the sanctions, particularly Mali and Niger, because Niger is suffering from the sanctions that were imposed. Even in Niger, nobody can go to an ATM and take more than 100,000 CFA per week. How can you survive?
Senegal's political crisis emanating from the postponement of the February 25th presidential election never got a chance during the emergency summit. The state, represented by the Senegalese Minister of Foreign Affairs, defended the legality of the postponement, a development Ibrahim Khan says is worrying.
I think it would have been an opportunity for the Commission, even if it was an AOB, to say, hey, this is a crisis in Senegal, why? We need to talk about it. The Senegalese Minister of Foreign Affairs was there, but he vehemently protested, and the only solution that they had is to go, oh, let's take it out from the agenda of the meeting. That's disgusting for an organization.
West Africa, on the brink of disintegration, according to regional experts, needs inclusive measures, intervention and renewed commitment by stakeholders to calm tensions.
Oge Birika with that report. Here in Senegal, reactions continue to trail the postponement of the presidential elections by President Macky Sall. Faced with unprecedented situation in the country, the Senegalese Catholic Church has reacted. The Council of Catholics has called on the political actors to diligently respect the electoral calendar. The Archbishop of Dakar, during an interview with KTO television, said the reasons put forward by President Sall are not very clear in the minds of the Senegalese people. Augustine Coley reports.
For Bishop Benjamin Njai, this situation is surprising, confusing, and disarming for the Senegalese people. The Senegalese cleric denounces the double standards that led to the postponement of the presidential election.
For the questions of political contestation, we are putting a process in motion which, despite all its flaws and difficulties, was a way to be engaged in the consultation of the common good.
The bishops, imams, and ulama of Senegal had planned to issue a joint statement during the campaign for peaceful elections. The Archbishop of Dakar calls on Senegal's leaders to put the interests of the people first.
What is the common good of Senegal today? What we want is peace, but peace can only come in justice and in truth. And for that, we must not be victims of political management, but that the national interest prevails over any other political calculation.
The Archbishop of Dakar, who is also president of the Bishops' Conference of Senegal, Mauritania, Cape Verde, and Guinea-Bissau, says he is praying for a return to peace in his country.
Augustine Colley filed that report. Still in Senegal, a group of 37 opposition MPs on Thursday lodged a complaint of unconstitutionality with the Constitutional Council against the law postponing the presidential election to December 15. At the same time, Guinea-Bissau President Umaro Sissoko Embalo, who was in Dakar, called on the country's political class to engage in dialogue. In a message posted on social network X, the Senegalese presidency made it clear that the former ECOWAS president had not come to mediate, but rather because he has, and I quote, a solid relationship with the political class. Away from Senegal, the Gambian government has announced a free visa entry policy for Saudi Arabian nationals. The presidency says the decision is based on the excellent relations between the two countries in the areas of investment, trade, and tourism. WADR's Sankule Janko has more.
In a bid to strengthen bilateral relations and promote tourism, the Republic of the Gambia has announced a significant policy change, granting free visa entry to Saudi nationals. This move marks a pivotal step in fostering closer ties between the two nations. The decision in effect raised the distinctive relations is being announced simultaneously by both countries, as is usually done in such cases. The Gambia, known for its diverse culture and rich history, has been actively seeking to boost its tourism sector in recent years. Conversely, Saudi Arabia, with its growing economy and increasing outbound tourism, presents a promising market for the Gambia's tourism industry. Banjul, having recognized the potential benefits of facilitating travel between the two countries, is implementing this new visa policy for Saudi nationals.
Sankule Janko reporting.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we stream live on WADR.org and on Facebook, WADR English Service. More on bilateral cooperation. Côte d'Ivoire and the United States of America have signed an agreement on operations to combat illegal transnational maritime activities. The agreement was initiated by Leon Kako Adam, the Ivorian Minister of Foreign Affairs, African Integration and Ivorians Living Abroad, and Jessica Davis, Ambassador of the United States to Côte d'Ivoire. Tawfiq Abdel Nasser has put this report by WADR's Albain Ade in Abidjan.
This agreement is in show of support for Côte d'Ivoire's maritime security. The United States is committed to providing assistance to stop illegal trafficking in Ivorian waters. For the Ivorian Minister of Foreign Affairs, it is an advantage for Côte d'Ivoire to better fight against illegal maritime activities and to benefit from the support of the United States, which has one of the most impressive and effective navies in the world. This maritime agreement comes just a few weeks after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Côte d'Ivoire, during which several bilateral agreements were signed.
A report by WADR's Abidjan correspondent Albin Ade and voice in our studios by Tawfiq Abdel Nasser. Elsewhere, Mauritania is pinned to receive 210 million euros in financial support from the European Union, EU. This fund was announced during a meeting between the Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Al-Ghazouani, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and the head of the Spanish government, Pedro Sanchez. Von der Leyen, speaking at a joint press conference on Thursday in Nouakchott, said Mauritania welcomes refugees fleeing violence in the region and therefore needs all the help it can get. She affirmed that the situation in the Sahel was precarious and Mauritania played a vital role for stability in the region. The European Commission concluded with an elaborate plan that entails increased cooperation between the Union and Mauritania in the fight against illegal migration. Organized labor in Ghana remains firm in its resolve to protest on February 13 against the recently announced 15% value-added tax VAT on electricity for domestic consumers. This follows their rejection of the government's decision to merely suspend the policy, insisting on its complete withdrawal. The policy sparked intense criticism since its announcement, putting significant pressure on the government. WADR's Accra correspondent Na Deditete.
On February 7, 2024, Ghana's Ministry of Finance directed the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, to halt the implementation of the new tax policy. According to the ministry, this was to, among others, allow for stakeholder engagement, including an engagement with organized labor. Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah explained the suspension will also provide government the opportunity to explore alternative means of addressing the potential revenue gap created by this latest decision. However, the labor unions remained dissatisfied, insisting on a complete withdrawal of the tax. Patrick Binyemi, a representative of the Regional Metro Council of Labour, emphasized his position.
This is not only about workers, it's even about we and our families at home. Whatever you buy as electricity, you pay a 15% VAT on it. And this has repercussions on our artisans.
He further indicated that the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, will also join the protest planned for February 13th.
No commercial vehicle within Accra will work. The drivers, all of them are going to join the demonstration. And we are going to register our displeasure that it is not about suspension, but it is about total withdrawal.
Should the GPRTU indeed join the protest, it would significantly impact many individuals who rely on public transportation, potentially leaving them stranded.
Now, DDTT in Accra reporting there. In a related development, two main unions in Nigeria, the Labour Congress NLC and Trade Union Congress TUC, have given the government a 2-week ultimatum to address various demands negatively impacting citizens. These demands include wage increases and improved access to public utilities. WADR's Usman Umar in Abuja reports.
The unions are accusing the government of failing to uphold promises to mitigate the impact of reforms. The reforms, which ended fuel subsidies and lifted restrictions on currency trading, have led to increased inflation and cost of living crisis. The unions have not specified the consequences if their demands are not met. This ultimatum follows a one-day strike in November and previous threats from the unions regarding petrol price hikes. The state oil firms, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has stated that it has no plans to increase petrol prices after last week's devaluation of the local currency. There is yet to be any official response by the federal government to the latest threat of shutdown by the unions. Meanwhile, protest over hardship had rocked the city of Kano and was followed by another one in Minna, capital of Niger State, north-central Nigeria. The protesters, made up of largely women, expressed dissatisfaction with their state government's responses to the rising cost of living. The governor of Niger State, Umar Mohammed Bago, had ordered security agents to seize trucks carrying farm produce to combat rising price of food items in the region. The state produces millet and sorghum, which are sold in markets across Nigeria. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, Nigerian federal lawmakers will meet in the coming days to consider and adopt concrete measures to address many pressing issues challenging the country. Citizens currently lament the deteriorating security crisis and spiraling economy attributed to the fuel subsidy removal and currency depreciation. The legislature, as an arm of government, has been blamed for not doing enough to force the executive to meet the needs of the population. Speaking at a World Conference on Thursday, Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas said the Green Chamber is working assiduously to restore the systems.
Constructive citizen government engagement is the cornerstone of democratic governance. Facilitating transparency, responsiveness, and inclusive decision-making. As we mature in our democracy, it is imperative to cultivate a culture of meaningful interaction and collaboration between citizens and government institutions. To those affected by the scourge of insecurity, I want you to know that your government hears you loud and clear. We are taking decisive steps to address the root causes of this menace, deploying both military and diplomatic resources to ensure that the safety and security of all Nigerians. It is a complex challenge, one that requires patience and a time to resolve, but I assure you that we are making progress in this regard. On the economic front, we are equally committed to reversing the downturn and setting our country back on a path of sustainable growth. We understand the urgency of the situation and are working tirelessly to alleviate the hardships many of you are experiencing. Food security is fundamental to national security. We are implementing comprehensive strategies to boost agricultural production, improve supply chains, and ensure that affordable food is accessible to everyone, regardless of where they live.
Tajuddin Abbas, Speaker of the Nigerian House of Representatives, noted that the chamber will strengthen legislation against defamation, character assassination, and cyberbullying in an era of fake news and misinformation. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS ends emergency summit in Abuja with renewed vigor to dialogue Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger about quitting the bloc. The Council of Senegalese Catholics urges calm and respect for the electoral calendar as 37 opposition MPs petitioned the Constitutional Council. Ghana's organized labor remains firm in protesting against the controversial electricity tax on February 13, 2024. Still ahead in the news, Liberia's President Joseph Boakai orders an immediate forensic audit of the central bank and 2 other state institutions. We also have the guest interview and sports update. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. Liberia's President Joseph Boakai has ordered a special committee to immediately audit 3 key government institutions as part of efforts to fight against corruption. These 3 government entities are the Central Bank, the National Security Agency (NSA), and the Executive Protection Service (EPS). The presidency, in a statement on Thursday, indicated that the anti-corruption push to include an audit of the former government of George Weah. The committee tasked with this assignment is expected to present its findings within 3 months, which will focus on the period from 2018 to 2023 about the exact duration of Weah's regime. Boakai's administration sees the forensic audit as the beginning of a holistic process that will later capture government ministries and agencies to fight graft and ensure transparency. Now we remain in Liberia because it joined the rest of the world this week in commemorating the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation (FGM). As part of the celebration, the country announced the shutting down of a major bush school in northern Liberia, Lofa County, where thousands of young girls and women have been initiated for decades. WADR's Danton Popper reports.
Situated in a thick forest in northern Liberia, Lofa County is Vezela, a small settlement traditionally noted for operating a Sunday secret society where women are initiated annually. At the start of the ceremony, attended by international partners, Givla Wenwu, an official of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, set the stage by announcing the purpose of the occasion.
We all know that freedom, in order for development, real development to take place in any society, justice and freedom must be observed. And when a child or anyone is abused, then freedom is undermined and development is undermined by extension.
For Liberian Cultural Ambassador Judy Andy, the ceremony marks a significant milestone in a fight to eliminate female genital mutilation in Liberia.
Today, as we stand on the edge of change, we must reaffirm our relentless commitment to protecting the rights and dignity of every girl and woman in Liberia. I am proud to say that Liberia has made a significant steps in our journey to eliminate FGM.
Meanwhile, United Nations Women Country Representative to Liberia, Comfort Lamte, presented a special statement from partners.
We reiterate our commitment to prevent and respond to this harmful practice against women and girls. Female genital mutilation is a violation of women and girls' rights, one that endangers their physical and mental health and limits their potential to lead healthy and fulfilling lives.
It is expected Liberia's international partners will work towards providing assistance to support persons who have survived through the practice of FGM. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest this afternoon, Ibrahim Khan, a governance expert, speaks to the attempt by the regional powerhouse ECOWAS to address the myriad of issues ranging from insecurity to poverty, spiraling economy, and poor governance. The most recent is unprecedented political crisis in Senegal, occasioned by the postponement of the presidential election by President Macky Sall. Senegal's situation, which followed the announced exit of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from the regional bloc, propelled an emergency meeting by ECOWAS on Thursday in Abuja, Nigeria. Ibrahim Khan, in analyzing the outcome of the conference concerning the Sahel state crisis, also expressed disappointment over Senegal's refusal to table its matter.
Well, I think the problem with ECOWAS is that, in particular, in the case of Niger and Mali, Burkina Faso is a different one, because they didn't go very far against Burkina. But in the case of Mali and particularly Niger, they went very fast in deciding on sanctions. Very, very fast. Even not having a conversation with the new authorities on Niger, you just decide that you not only put the sanction at the very, very high level, and also say that you are going to invade the country. It was a very big mistake. For me, the position of the three countries is just a bargaining position, because I don't see these countries, given their position of landlocked countries and the geographical position, to just one day decide to leave ECOWAS. It will be damaging for their economy, damaging in many, many ways. But now they are in a very good position to bargain. And what I heard from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nigeria is meaning that they succeeded.
How much do you think the three Sahel states put together will want to take back from ECOWAS?
Well, I think that the first thing that they are asking openly is to end of the sanctions, immediate end of the sanctions, particularly Mali and Niger, because Niger is suffering from the sanctions that were imposed. Even in Niger, nobody can, go to an ATM and take more than 100,000 francs per week. How can you survive? Even at the head of the family, how can you survive? And there is no medicine. There are so many big problems for a country that is precisely in a situation of war.
Do you think ECOWAS will ever have them back, even if at all they reach a compromise?
They will have them back. This military also, don't forget that the way that they gain support is their capacity to show the population that they are resisting. That's the basis of the support by the population. But they also realize that there are limits to what they can do. And that one, for example, the Malians know very, very well that now, if Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire closes their door, it's finished for the economy of the country. Totally finished. They know. Why have not they decided to leave UEMOA? UEMOA is totally controlled by France. But now, the question is ECOWAS going to accept for this military to compete for the presidential election?
Now, talk about solution with the problem that the region is facing, in particular Senegal, the unfolding and unprecedented political crisis with the postponement of the February 25th elections by President Macky Sall. Now, during the ECOWAS Emergency Summit, the state protested against any discussion about the decision taken.
Well, I think it will affect the political situation, because this would have been an opportunity not only for the ECOWAS Commission, for the leadership of the region to really question Senegal on some of the position, on some of the decisions made by not only the Senegalese president, but also the Senegalese parliament. It didn't happen. Have you heard about a mission of ECOWAS Commission to Senegal? This is almost 1 week now that we are having the crisis. How that can be that can be possible for a region, a body that is really dealing with democracy, rule of law, good governance, election, and other issues. So this is a real problem. That's disgusting for an organization like this.
How do you think the political space back here in Senegal can be considerate of the situation and not allowed to escalate to a peak that has never been seen before, especially that this region is faced by cascading challenges both in the political, economic, and security fronts?
We are all watching and listening to the judiciary. The judiciary in its two branches, the Constitutional Council, at least has received two series of complaints, one from those who have been selected to participate in the election, who wants to know are they going to continue the political campaign or not, and two, MPs who have, I think today, they filed two complaints on the constitutionality of the law that was passed by the parliament on Monday. So we'll see that if the Constitutional Court will make a decision about this thing and say that there cannot be an extension to the tenure of the President of the Republic as stated clearly by the Constitution. And there is another second series of complaints before now the Supreme Court of Senegal about the decree that the President took to repeal the other one, calling the Electoral College for participating to the presidential election. So it's in the hand of the judiciary. I think everybody is watching what the judiciary will say in the next 2 weeks or month, and from there we will see what to do.
Ibrahim Khan is an AU governance expert. In the world of sport, Côte d'Ivoire and Nigeria are set to lock horns in the highly anticipated final of the Total Energies Cup Africa Cup of Nations 2023 on Sunday. The Alassane Ouattara Stadium will be the stage for what promises to be a final for the ages. In the previous encounter during the group stage, Nigeria narrowly clinched victory with a 1-0 win over the host. However, with redemption on their mind, Côte d'Ivoire is primed to pose a formidable challenge. For Nigerian manager Jose Peseiro, devising a strategy to outwit his counterpart Emers Faye will be crucial. Peseiro's tactical acumen instead Nigeria passed South Africa in a thrilling penalty shootout in the semi-finals, setting the stage for a tactical showdown between the two coaches. On the pitch, the spotlight will be on star players such as Côte d'Ivoire's Nicolas Pepe and Sebastian Haller, alongside Nigeria's Victor Osimhen and William Troost-Ekong. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maojo Juve for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, now WADR English Service. We also stream live on WADR.org. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.